Your phone buzzes. Her name lights up the screen and your heart skips. Because it has been 3 days since she last responded to your message. You open it immediately, hoping this might be the moment she finally realizes what she's been missing. Instead, find another casual text asking if you're free to help her move this weekend, or if you know any good restaurants for her date on Friday. Your date with someone else? You stare at the message, feeling that familiar cocktail of hope and humiliation. Hope because she's still reaching out, still keeping you in her orbit. Humiliation because you know exactly what role you're replaying in her life, and it's not the one you want. You're not the leading man in her romantic story. You're not even the supporting actor. You're the unpaid intern who keeps showing up, doing the work, and somehow convincing yourself that persistence will eventually lead to promotion. You've become what every man fears most, and what every woman keeps strategically positioned. The backup plan, the safety net, the option she keeps available while she pursues what she actually wants. Today, I'm going to dissect the psychological machinery that keeps men trapped in this limbo, and explain why being someone's option is worse than being rejected entirely. Because once you understand how this system operates, you'll realize that the cruelest thing a woman can do isn't saying no, it's saying maybe indefinitely. The option position is a masterpiece of psychological manipulation. Not because women consciously design it that way, but because it perfectly exploits male psychology while serving female strategic interests. It provides women with emotional support, practical assistance, and ego validation while requiring zero commitment, exclusivity, or reciprocal investment. For the woman, maintaining options creates a portfolio of male attention that hedges against relationship risks. If her primary relationship fails, she has immediate alternatives. If she needs help, validation, or entertainment, she has a roster of men eager to provide it. If she wants to feel desired without the complications of actual relationships, she has willing participants in her validation economy. For the man trapped in option status, the experience is fundamentally different. He's invested in an outcome that seems perpetually within reach, but never quite materializes. He's playing a game where the rules change constantly, where evidence of progress is mixed with signals of distance, where hope is maintained through carefully calibrated doses of attention and possibility. This dynamic creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, the most powerful tool for maintaining behavior patterns, like a slot machine that occasionally pays out just enough to keep players feeding coins. The option dynamic provides just enough positive reinforcement to keep men investing time, energy, and emotional resources without providing the actual relationship they're seeking. The woman doesn't need to lie or make false promises. She simply needs to remain friendly, occasionally responsive, and strategically vague about future possibilities. The man's own hopes and assumptions fill in the gaps, creating a narrative of potential romance that may exist more in his imagination than in her intentions. Understanding why women keep men as options requires understanding the economic value these men provide without requiring reciprocal investment. Option men offer emotional labor, practical assistance, ego validation, and social benefits that would normally require either friendship obligations or romantic commitments to maintain. The option man becomes an unpaid provider of services that would cost significant time, energy, or money to obtain elsewhere. He listens to her problems without expecting her to reciprocate. He provides practical help without negotiating fair exchange. He offers emotional support during her relationship difficulties with other men. He serves as an entertaining companion when she's bored, a validation source when she's insecure, and a reliable resource when she needs assistance. This arrangement works perfectly for women because it provides relationship benefits without relationship costs. She receives male attention without having to manage male emotions. She gets support without providing support. She enjoys companionship without sacrificing independence or dealing with expectations about exclusivity, commitment, or sexual reciprocity. The option man, meanwhile, operates under the illusion that his investments are building towards something. He believes that his consistent availability, his willingness to help, his emotional support during her difficulties will eventually be recognized and rewarded with romantic consideration. He's investing in futures contracts on a relationship that may never materialize. What he doesn't realize is that his very willingness to provide these services without reciprocal commitment actually disqualifies him from romantic consideration. The woman learns to associate him with convenience rather than desire, utility rather than attraction, availability rather than value. Women maintain backup plans not because they're manipulative, but because they're strategic. In a dating market where relationships end unpredictably and quality partners are difficult to find, keeping multiple options available is rational risk management. Research consistently shows that most women in relationships maintain connections with potential alternative partners. These aren't necessarily men. They're actively pursuing, but men they could potentially pursue if their current situation changed. These backup partners are typically men who have already demonstrated interest, availability, and willingness to invest in her without requiring immediate reciprocation. The backup man serves multiple functions in this system. He provides emotional insurance against relationship failure. He offers comparative perspective on her current partner's value. He maintains her skills at attracting and managing male attention. He preserves her options, without requiring her to make difficult choices about commitment. From her perspective, this is simply smart relationship management. From his perspective, it feels like being chosen, valued, and appreciated. The fundamental misalignment of these perspectives creates the psychological trap that keeps men invested in situations that serve her interest while undermining their own. The backup position feels like progress because it involves ongoing contact, shared experiences, and emotional intimacy. But it's actually a form of relationship purgatory where forward movement is impossible because the woman has no incentive to change a dynamic that already provides her with everything she wants from the interaction. Most men do. I'd realize that every interaction with women involves negotiation about the terms and conditions of the relationship. Women understand this instinctively. Men often remain oblivious until they've already negotiated themselves into disadvantageous positions. The negotiation begins from the first interaction and continues throughout the relationship development process. Every text response time, every invitation acceptance or decline, every level of interest expressed or withheld sends signals about value, availability, and relationship terms. Men who respond immediately to messages signal high availability. Men who always suggest specific plans signal high investment. Men who accept vague responses without requiring clarity signal willingness to operate under ambiguous conditions. Men who continue pursuing despite lukewarm reception signal that they're willing to work harder for less return than other options might require. Women consciously or unconsciously interpret these signals as negotiation positions. The man who demonstrates that he's willing to invest heavily without requiring reciprocal investment has negotiated himself into a disadvantageous position from the start. He's established that his time, attention, and energy are less valuable than hers. This negotiation framework explains why the same woman might keep one man as an option while pursuing another man who shows less obvious interest. It's not that she prefers men who treat her poorly. It's that she recognizes better negotiation positions when she encounters them. The man who maintains some scarcity, requires some reciprocity, and demonstrates that his attention has value is negotiating from a position of strength. The man who makes himself completely available and asks for nothing in return is negotiating from a position of weakness. The most counterintuitive aspect of male-female dynamics is how increased pursuit often leads to decreased attraction. Men naturally assume that demonstrating higher levels of interest will inspire higher levels of interest in return. This assumption is not only wrong, it's often precisely backwards. Female attraction operates on scarcity principles that are opposite to male intuition. When something is easily available, it's perceived as less valuable. When someone pursues harder, they appear more desperate. When investment is one-sided, it signals imbalanced value between the parties. The man who tells a woman he's never met anyone, it's like her before, is accidentally communicating that his standards are low enough that she represents the pinnacle of his experience. The man who immediately rearranges his schedule to accommodate her availability is signaling that he has no better options competing for his time. The man who continues pursuing despite clear signals of disinterest is demonstrating that he either cue and read social cues or chooses to ignore them. Female psychology interprets these behaviors as evidence of lower male value. If this man is willing to work so hard for so little return, the reasoning goes, he must not have better options available. If he had higher value alternatives, he wouldn't be investing so heavily in someone who's showing minimal reciprocal interest. This creates a cruel paradox where the men who care most demonstrate their care in ways that make them less attractive. The men who invest most heavily signal that their investment isn't particularly valuable. The men who try hardest appear most desperate. The option man is typically someone who has fallen into this pursuit trap without realizing how his behavior is being interpreted. He thinks he's demonstrating value through investment. She interprets his investment as evidence of his lack of better alternatives. One of the fastest ways to relegate yourself to option status is to make yourself too available too quickly. Availability signals that you have nothing better to do, nowhere else to be, and no one else competing for your time and attention. When a woman suggests meeting, and you immediately agree without checking your schedule, you communicate that your life is empty enough to accommodate whatever she wants whenever she wants it. When she texts, and you respond immediately every time, you signal that you're sitting around waiting for her attention. When she cancels plans, and you immediately suggest alternative dates, you demonstrate that your time has no value beyond serving her convenience. This availability trap is particularly dangerous because it feels like positive behavior. Being responsive feels like being considerate. Being flexible feels like being accommodating. Being eager feels like being interested. But from her perspective, these behaviors signal that you're probably not the kind of man who has options of his own. Women are attracted to men who appear to be in demand. This demand is communicated partly through limited availability, selective response patterns, and evidence that other people and priorities compete for your time and attention. The man who's always available is communicating that he's not particularly valuable to anyone else. The man who has limited availability is communicating that his time is valuable, and other people want access to it. This doesn't mean being deliberately difficult or playing games. It means having a genuine life, with genuine priorities that do immediately reorganize around every woman who shows interest. It means responding to interest at your own pace rather than at hers. It means maintaining standards about how your time and energy are invested. Option status is characterized by severely imbalanced investment levels where the man contributes far more time, energy, emotional labor, and resources than he receives in return. This imbalance doesn't happen overnight. It develops gradually through small concessions that accumulate into major disadvantages. It starts with him texting first more often than she does. Then he's always the one suggesting plans. Then he's always the one driving to her location. Then he's always the one paying for activities. Then he's providing emotional support during her relationship problems with other men. Then he's helping her move, fixing her computer, listening to her work drama, and serving as her entertainment when she's bored. Each individual request seems reasonable. Each act of service feels like building connection. Each investment appears to demonstrate his value as a partner. But the cumulative effect is creating a dynamic where she receives relationship benefits without providing reciprocal investment. The woman learns to see him as a resource rather than a romantic possibility. She associates him with utility rather than desire. She begins to expect his availability and assistance without considering what she provides in return. This imbalance becomes self-perpetuating because the man, having already invested so much, feels compelled to continue investing to protect his previous investments. He's trapped in what economists call the sunk cost fallacy, continuing to pour resources into a failing venture because he's already invested too much to walk away. Meanwhile, the woman has no incentive to change the dynamic because it's already providing her with everything she wants from the interaction. Why would she risk disrupting a system that gives her emotional support, practical assistance, and ego validation without requiring reciprocal obligations? Women don't evaluate men in isolation. They evaluate them comparatively against other available options. This means that your position in her hierarchy depends not just on your qualities, but on how those qualities compare to other men she could potentially choose. The option man is typically someone she views as acceptable, but not optimal. He's good enough to keep around in case better options don't materialize, but not compelling enough to choose over other possibilities. He represents security without excitement, comfort without passion, availability without challenge. This comparative framework explains why many men find themselves perpetually in second place. They might be objectively attractive, successful, and compatible, but they're competing against men who occupy different positions in her preference hierarchy. The man she actually chooses is typically someone who creates stronger emotional responses, whether through attraction, uncertainty, challenge, or status. The option man might be more reliable, more available, more invested, and more compatible. But these qualities don't generate the same level of excitement or desire. Understanding this comparative dynamic is crucial because it explains why increasing your investment in her doesn't improve your position relative to other men. In fact, it often worsens your position by making you appear more desperate. While your competition maintains more attractive levels of scarcity and challenge, if you're starting to recognize yourself in these patterns and want to understand how to escape, option status, before it destroys your confidence in dating success, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. The psychology I'm revealing today explains why so many good men find themselves consistently friend-zoned. And there's much more to explore about reclaiming your value in the dating marketplace. Option men often become unpaid therapists for women, who use them to process emotions about relationships with other men. This emotional labor exploitation represents one of the cruelest aspects of option status, because it requires the man to actively support the woman's romantic involvement with his competition. She calls when her actual boyfriend treats her poorly, needing someone to listen to her frustrations. She seeks advice about how to handle conflicts with men she's actually attracted to. She uses him as an emotional dumping ground for relationship stress, while maintaining romantic distance. This dynamic serves multiple functions for her. It provides emotional support without requiring her to reciprocate. It maintains his investment in her well-being without requiring romantic commitment. It keeps him psychologically involved in her love life, while ensuring he remains outside it. For the option man, providing this emotional labor feels like building intimacy and demonstrating value. He believes that being her trusted, confident positions him as boyfriend material. He thinks that helping her through relationship difficulties will eventually lead to her recognizing his worth as a partner. In reality, this emotional labor is positioning him as a friend rather than a romantic possibility. By accepting the role of emotional supporter for her relationships with other men, he's categorizing himself as someone she trusts but doesn't desire. He's becoming associated with comfort and stability rather than excitement and attraction. The woman learns to compartmentalize him as the person who helps her process emotions, rather than the person who generates emotions. She begins to rely on his emotional support while directing her romantic energy elsewhere. Option status is maintained through false progress indicators that create the illusion of relationship development without actual movement toward commitment. These indicators provide just enough hope to maintain male investment while avoiding the obligations that would come with real relationship progression. These false indicators include increasing communication frequency, deeper personal sharing, physical proximity without sexual escalation, and expressions of appreciation that stop short of romantic interest. She might start texting more often, sharing more personal information, spending more time together, or expressing gratitude for his support and friendship. Each of these developments feels like progress toward a romantic relationship. The man interprets increased communication as increased interest. Deeper sharing feels like building intimacy. More time together seems like relationship development. Expressions of appreciation appear to indicate growing recognition of his value. But these indicators often represent the opposite of romantic progress. They represent her growing comfort with treating him as a friend rather than evaluating him as a romantic partner. They indicate her increasing confidence that she can maintain his investment without providing romantic reciprocation. Real romantic progress involves escalating physical intimacy, exclusive commitment, public relationship acknowledgement, and integration into her romantic future plans. False progress involves everything else that feels like development but doesn't actually change the fundamental dynamic between them. Men trapped in option status suffer from massive opportunity costs that extend far beyond the specific woman who's keeping them in limbo. While they're investing time, energy, and emotional resources in someone who doesn't intend to choose them, they're missing opportunities to build relationships with women who might actually appreciate their investment. The option trap prevents men from developing other romantic possibilities because they're psychologically and practically invested in a situation that demands ongoing attention without providing relationship benefits. They not fully available to other women because they holding space for someone who's not holding space for them. This opportunity cost compounds over time as social circles solidify, dating skills atrophy from disuse, and confidence erodes from repeated experiences of being valued but not chosen. The man who spends months or years as someone's option emerges from that experience less attractive to other women than when he entered it. Meanwhile, the woman suffers no opportunity costs from maintaining options. She can pursue her preferred romantic interests while keeping backup plans available. She can explore other relationships while maintaining his emotional support. She can date freely while preserving his availability for times when she needs assistance or validation. The asymmetric opportunity costs create a system where one party benefits from prolonged uncertainty, while the other party pays increasing prices for diminishing returns. The longer the option dynamic continues, the more advantageous it becomes for her, and the more disadvantageous it becomes for him. One of the most psychologically damaging aspects of option status is that it prevents the clean closure that would come from direct rejection. Instead of being told clearly that romantic interest doesn't exist, the option man lives in permanent uncertainty about possibilities that may never materialize. Direct rejection, while painful, provides clarity that allows men to move forward. It eliminates false hope, ends futile investment, and frees emotional energy for other pursuits. It's a temporary pain that leads to permanent resolution. Option status provides the worst of both worlds. The ongoing pain of unreciprocated interest combined with the ongoing hope that keeps that pain alive. It's rejection without closure, distance without finality, friendliness without romantic possibility. This ambiguous loss is particularly difficult to process because there's no clear moment of ending to grieve. Instead, there's an ongoing state of maybe that prevents both acceptance and progress. The man can't fully mourn the loss of romantic possibility because that possibility is never definitively closed. The woman, meanwhile, benefits from avoiding the discomfort of delivering clear rejection. While maintaining the benefits of male attention and investment, she doesn't have to hurt his feelings directly, lose his friendship, or give up the resources he provides. This creates a system where her comfort is prioritized over his clarity, her convenience over his closure, and her options over his opportunity to find someone who will actually choose him. Escaping option status requires recognizing that the position itself is the problem. It's not the specific woman or the particular circumstances that created it. Men who find themselves repeatedly in option positions are typically making systemic errors in how they approach relationships, rather than simply encountering uncommitted women. The escape begins with understanding that romantic interest is not created through increased investment, availability, or demonstration of caring. These behaviors often signal lower value rather than higher value, desperation rather than desirability, and neediness rather than attractiveness. Genuine attraction is created through scarcity, challenge, uncertainty, and evidence of options. Women are drawn to men who appear to be in demand, who maintain some mystery, who require some effort to win, and who have standards about how they're treated. This doesn't mean being cruel, dishonest, or manipulative. It means having genuine standards about reciprocity, maintaining real priorities beyond any individual woman, and refusing to accept treatment that doesn't match your investment level. Men who consistently escape option status are those who recognize their own value clearly enough to require others to recognize it as well. They don't accept ambiguous positions, one-sided investments, or indefinite uncertainty about where they stand. The fundamental solution to option status lies in understanding and correcting the power imbalances that create these dynamics in the first place. When one person invests more, cares more, and needs the relationship more than the other person, they automatically assume the weaker position in the relationship negotiation. Power in relationships flows to the person who is more willing to walk away, less desperate for specific outcomes, and more confident in their ability to find alternatives. This power allows them to set terms, maintain standards, Avoid accepting treatment that doesn't serve their interests. The option man typically gives away his power by demonstrating that he needs her more than she needs him, wants the relationship more than she does, and has fewer alternatives than she has. This creates a dynamic where she can set all the terms, because he's already communicated his willingness to accept whatever she offers. Reclaiming power requires reversing these dynamics by maintaining genuine alternatives, setting clear standards about reciprocity, and demonstrating willingness to walk away from situations that do not serve your interests. It means caring about the outcome less than you care about being treated well. This power shift often transforms the entire dynamic because it forces women to either invest more substantially or lose access to your attention entirely. It eliminates the middle ground of keeping you as an option, because options only work when men are willing to accept option status. The brutal truth about option status is that it represents a fundamental failure of self-respect disguised as romantic persistence. Men who accept option positions are essentially agreeing to provide relationship benefits to women, and provide relationship status in return. This arrangement serves no one's authentic interests. It prevents men from finding women who will actually choose them. It prevents women from developing genuine appreciation for the men who invest in them. It creates resentment, confusion, and unsatisfying relationship dynamics for both parties. The men who escape this trap are those who understand that being chosen enthusiastically by someone who appreciates their value is infinitely better than being kept around by someone who takes their investment for granted. Real relationships are built on mutual enthusiasm, reciprocal investment, shared commitment to each other's happiness and success. Anything less than mutual enthusiasm is not a relationship worth pursuing, regardless of how much hope or potential it seems to contain. The option trap is designed to exploit male psychology that confuses investment with progress, availability with attractiveness, and persistence with value. Understanding these psychological vulnerabilities is the first step toward developing immunity to dynamics that waste your time while serving someone else's convenience. If this analysis of why women keep men around without choosing them has helped you recognize patterns that have been costing you time, energy, and opportunity in your dating life, subscribe to this channel for more insights into the hidden dynamics that govern romantic relationships. Hit that notification bell because understanding these patterns could save you from years of investing in people who will never invest in you equally. Share this video with any man who needs to understand that being someone's option is worse than being rejected entirely, because at least rejection provides clarity and freedom to find someone who will actually choose you. The men who win in relationships are those who refuse to accept anything less than mutual enthusiasm and reciprocal investment. That's the ultimate truth about option status. It's a position that serves everyone's interests, except your own. And the only way to escape it is to value yourself highly enough to require others to value you as well.